Welcome to the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world. 12 and a half years strong. We got a great show coming your way. I'm Jeff Warren here with my buddy Len Hunsicker. It's been a little while since you've been on the pod here, Len. It's good to see you, my friend.
It has. I was actually thinking about it last week, where it's like I've done regular shows, post-game shows. It feels like it has been a while. I know my schedule hasn't been lining up with it a lot recently, but still, it feels like it's been like 2 or 3 weeks at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see you. A couple weeks ago at Eric's, we all got together, and we had Eric's famous blue cheese bacon burgers, which were fantastic. I must say, we were actually talking about it on the show last week. How good his burgers were. Yes, but really, I mean, already in our fantasy basketball league, your number one guy's already out.
Yeah, and this is why I don't really do this stuff. I don't know why I agreed to do the basketball when I did it last year, and I was trying to get back in the league and all. But yeah, so I think I had the 6th pick in our draft this year, and I took Anthony Edwards. He had a great year last year for the Wolves. Young player,
Good
no
pick.
reason to think he
Good
wouldn't
pick.
repeat that.
Right.
And he's already out until mid-November, so it's just like I mean.
That's where it becomes that's where it becomes interesting, because you got to use strategy, and you got to be like, here's what we got to do to get back into it. We got to be strategic.
How do you use strategy when these guys are made out of glass and they never play?
You know what? You make a good point.
Because on a regular night, it's like, oh man, I only have 5 guys going tonight in my lineup, and then one of them's hurt, and then one of them's sitting. It's just like,
I know.
Man. I have nobody playing.
Last year, I was almost at the bottom of the barrel last year for most of the league, because I had so many injuries. That's right. That's what's tough about fantasy basketball.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
anybody,
these guys are just a bunch of Ferraris. The world's best athletes, but those Ferraris are always in the shop.
They are exactly one little ding, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, it just I don't know.
All right, we got a great show, folks. We're going to be getting into some Philadelphia Eagles talk as they are in their bye week. If you want to go back in the feed, we do have an Opposition Territory podcast. I know we've been previewing our Eagles shows here, and Eagles games, I should say. But we got into just the NFC and what the NFC is looking like so far halfway through the NFL season. But we're going to be diving into some Eagles talk and what we want to see from them in Week 10 when they return from the bye week. And then we're going to get into some Philadelphia 76ers talk, because my gosh, this team is just surprising the hell out of everybody.
They're fun again.
Oh my gosh, entertaining basketball. Holy freaking crap. They're undefeated as of us recording this here on Wednesday, October 29th. My goodness gracious. So, goodness gracious.
All right, Susan.
I know. I wonder if folks will know what that is. And then from there, we're going to get into some Philadelphia Union talk. Can they make a run for the championship, for the MLS Cup? We're going to dive into that storyline for sure. And then we're going to get into some Flyers talk and really talk about Trevor Zegras. I mean, wow, he has been pretty sensational and pretty fun to watch early on. The Flyers offseason acquisition that we've all been really enjoying watching. Our thoughts on him and how this team is performing. And then what we're throwing down on the table this week, we're going to get into some college football talk with our good friend Joe DeLeone from A to Z Sports and the Ruffino and Joe Show podcast. We're going to dive into this college football season a little bit more. I mean, it's interesting storylines for sure in the world of college football. So, Len, buddy, why don't we get into this Philadelphia Eagles team here? So it's the bye week. It's been up and down. They're 6-2. They had what seemed to be a get-right game against the Giants. And really what we want to see from them when Week 10 rolls around, because I think at this point, too, while we did see some improvement with the pass rush this past week, we absolutely did. I mean, 5 sacks in a game, holy freaking crap. And, yeah, some of them were coverage sacks for sure. But I think the pass rush still isn't where it needs to be for this team to be as successful as they're going to want to be if and when they do get into the playoffs. So I think moving into Week 10, the pass rush, they still need to get home. They still need to finish. I think that's a big theme coming into or surrounding this bye week and then looking at Week 10.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, I know the Eagles made a trade for Jets corner Michael.
Yeah, Carter. I was going to get into that, but sure.
But what I mean, and I don't mean to go down that road just now, but that's more of leading into a question. When is the trade deadline? in the NFL.
The deadline is November. I think it's November 6th. Let me check here real quick. Okay.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I mean, talking about the pass rush, do you think that there is a chance that maybe
November 4th? Sorry, November 4th.
Okay.
Yes.
So they made a move to bolster their secondary.
Yep.
Now, do you think that there's maybe another move on deck
I think so.
some kind of edge rusher? Because, I mean, how's it going to improve? I don't know. But, I mean, Brandon Graham, as much as we all love him, he's not going to turn the clock back 10 years, coming back. So, he'll give you what he can, but I don't think you can reasonably expect it to be much. So it's going to either have to come from the guys that are there, or they're going to have to make a move, more likely to bring somebody in. And that's what's going to be interesting to me over the next few days here. Can they manage to get somebody in there to make that happen? Right
now, I believe the Eagles have 10 draft picks next year. This is just next year. They have a first rounder, a second rounder. They have 3 third-round picks as well, 2 fourth-round picks. So I think, Len, it's not out of the realm of possibility that maybe over this weekend, on Monday, or even, like I said, Tuesday, right before that deadline, that a pass rusher is brought in.
It feels like they kind of have to, right?
Feels like it. It feels like it.
Yeah.
Can I see them giving up a second rounder to get somebody who is going to be a significant addition and a significant piece? I can absolutely see that happening. They have the draft capital to do it. Why not do it in a year when it seems like things are going to start really clicking with this team? They certainly did against the Giants this past week.
It sucks, and it would hurt to get rid of that pick, but I mean, the window's open now, right?
Yeah.
They won it last year. They're, one of the better teams in the NFC. So why don't they have a chance to do it again this year if they can get some help? I mean, this is when you strike. I mean, they don't have any major injuries right now that are, oh man, Hurts is out for the year, or Barkley's out for the year, or something catastrophic like that. So you kind of have to, don't you?
I think so. I'm hoping that it happens within this next week for sure. I really am. Because look, I'm glad they ended up doing the trade to get Michael Carter II. So what that is, folks, if you aren't aware, Philadelphia Eagles receive cornerback Michael Carter II and a 2027 7th round pick. The Jets get wide receiver John Mechie, who really didn't see too much action as a member of this Eagles team, and also a 2027 6th round pick. So he apparently, I shouldn't say apparently, he's had about 25 starts. This is cornerback Michael Carter, and everybody's calling him MC2. So MC2 has logged 25 starts in 65 career games played. He's 26 years old. He has a 83.4 passer rating when targeted, which is pretty good, but it's been 109.7 in 5 games this season. And that's not so good in passer rating. So up and down for him, of course. But you know what? I do have faith in this scouting department when they're bringing in certain talent. Look, when they initially brought in and acquired Tank Bigsby, we were like, all right, he's been a productive running back down in Jacksonville. And then they just didn't use him. Up until this past week.
Hell of a job last week. Yeah.
What was it? 9 carries for 104 yards. Like, what the hell? What were you waiting for?
Yeah.
Not that he's going to do that every week, but really, I think the Eagles scouting department, their pro scouting department, is really top notch. And could we see good things from MC2? Absolutely. I really do like this trade.
Do you think that they see him more as a
slot?
The guy? Okay. That was my question. Do you think he's going to be a slot, or is he going to be on the outside opposite Mitchell?
It's my understanding, in the Jets games that I've seen, Michael Carter has mainly played in the slot. I mean, he's going to provide, I think, some overall versatility to the secondary, but I wouldn't expect necessarily Cooper DeJean to be moving to the outside, if that's what you mean. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see that happening at all, but an extra piece, and could he play on the outside? I think he could, but it's going to – I think they got a talent and an upgrade over – Adoree Jackson for sure, and Kelee Ringo.
Okay,
that's my thoughts here. So
well, I mean, and that's anything that you can get that's an improvement is going to help. But that's still based on what you have told me. That seems like there's still a hole on the outside opposite Mitchell.
I think there is. Look, they had to replace Darius Slay. You know, like that's a tough thing to do, especially when you have young talent that really hasn't developed in terms of Keely Ringo. We had high expectations for him coming into this season. Hasn't manifested itself at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
all right. Well,
I get it. Yeah. I just, that kind of wishing and hoping that, like,
yeah.
If these guys are good, teams aren't really looking to trade them. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, is there anything else, buddy, before we move on to some Sixers talk? Anything that you want to see from this Eagles team in Week 10 when they return from the bye week?
I mean, just more offensive cohesion. Return to health for AJ Brown or Cam Jurgens. I'm assuming that the bye week is going to be helpful in getting both of them back a little bit, unless there's something on either of their health statuses that I'm not fully aware of.
Yeah.
But yeah, just rest up and be refreshed and ready to go for when they start back up.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's get into now some Philadelphia 76ers talk, because woo-wee! the Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe backcourt is just ushering in this era of joy. The Sixers are undefeated and playing some very entertaining basketball right now as we are recording this. I cannot believe that they are the number one team right now in the Eastern Conference at 4-0. Yes, it's early in the season, Len, but holy freaking crap. This freaking team has been fun to watch. They're fun.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is, it's kind of weird. Just last year was such a drag, and you just wanted them to be fun again. It just felt like there was a black cloud over this organization all year last year, and it's just nice. Even if they're like, there's teams that are like fun but not necessarily good in the standings. Even if they were a bad team that was fun to watch, I could have lived with that. But the fact that they're fun and they're good so far, I mean, it's still very early in the year, but I mean, it's awesome to be able to see it.
It wasn't just last year, Len. Look, for the last decade, I mean, hell, maybe the last quarter century has just been filled with these soul-crushing moments for most of us diehard Sixers fans, from rookie injuries to guys you draft who then forget how to shoot the ball to just playoff disappointment after playoff disappointment and everything in between. This basketball team has continually they'll warm our hearts as we're getting ready for the season. And then throughout these seasons, they rip it out and they just stomp all over it. That's what we've basically seen for the last decade.
You name it, like bad draft picks, bad trades, bad health. Yes. Whatever it seems like could go wrong has gone wrong. So to have a guy that you picked third overall and he just comes in and he just looks like he belongs immediately, it's just like, wait, something good happened? Like, yes. that kind of feeling of like you're just not used to, anything good happening. I mean, the fact that they were a competitive team despite all that over the past, decade or whatever, maybe not a full decade, but you know what I mean? But even that's amazing, with all the goofy, crap that's happened over the past however many years. Yeah. But it seemed like it was kind of going down a hole last year where it was like, Embiid's getting older. He's always hurt. Paul George plays half a year. These guys are under contract for a while. They've got one guy on this team that I'm interested in watching in Maxey. McCain. And what is the vision for the future? He got hurt. Yeah. Yeah. So all that stuff. And it's just like now, I mean, I don't know where they can go because I think there's a ceiling just due to the size issues that they're going to face. But yeah, I mean, once McCain comes back, you've already got a fun backcourt in Maxey and Edgecombe. Grimes has been great off the bench. They're going to really have to figure out, the whole minutes distribution among their guards once McCain comes back. Yeah. But it's a fun problem to have. I mean, and I don't know, man. Right now, it's just I keep going back to the word, but it's just fun right now. It's fun. Well, when you read a stat like this per ESPN, the 186 points that Maxey and Edgecombe combined for through the first 3 games is the most for a starting backcourt through 3 games since the 1970 and 71 season when the stats first started to be tracked for that. I mean, just historical numbers.
Just what seemed, and it doesn't seem to be like fizzling out even like after the fourth game. And yes, that we get to see a Dembona doing some good things. You know what I mean?
5 blocks that last night.
So it seemed like the Sixers were running out of some energy, in the fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden a Dembona happened.
Yeah,
which was amazing. Like you said, the team is just fun to watch, and it's a high level of energy right now that I didn't think we were going to see. I don't think any of us thought we were going to see this level of energy.
Yeah, and I really think, this crop of rookies, it's not just Edgecombe. There was a whole Edgecombe versus Ace Bailey thing. I think Ace Bailey's going to do well out in Utah. Dylan Harper so far has looked really good in San Antonio. We knew Cooper Flagg was going to be good. Knippel down in Charlotte. For the role that they need him to play, he's playing it wonderfully. So it's been, a very strong rookie crop so far, not just for the Sixers, but just, I think around the league so far. It's been pretty impressive.
Absolutely. All right. You got anything else, buddy, before we get to our first break here with the Sixers?
No, I do not.
No? All right. Well, let's get to that first break here. Folks, if you are watching us on the YouTube, you can like and subscribe to us. Let everybody know about the Philadelphia Sports Table on YouTube. They can like again and subscribe. You can hit the bell to be posted or to be notified when we post new videos. We are also on various social media sites. We are on the Instagram, the Twitter /X. I'm over on TikTok at Mr. Jeff Warren. We've also got our Facebook page, Threads, and Eric and I are over on Blue Sky as well. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk Philadelphia Union, Flyers, and some college football. Stick with us. All right, we are back, and now we're going to get into some Philadelphia Union talk. Why? Because, folks, they are the most successful right now, the most successful Philly sports team as they are in the playoffs. They were the best team in Major League Soccer here in this 2025 season. They won the Supporter Shield, and we're going to dive into whether or not this team can really make a run through the MLS playoffs. Can they win the MLS Cup and bring that championship back to Philadelphia as they did a short time ago? Len, after last year and the very disappointing, in fact, horrible season that the Union had in 2024, there was no way in a million years I thought that this team could do what it did this year. And I think it's a testament to the new coach who took over for Jim Curtin, Bradley Carnell, his leadership, how he has put these guys on the field into situations where he's adapting to their strength. He's adapting his coaching style to what their strengths are. There's so much to be said for that. But I think it's this cohesion of the team being very resilient, because even when they've been down in certain moments in games, even this past game against the Chicago Fire, the last 15 minutes, you're like, oh my gosh, did these guys forget how to play soccer? You're thinking, what the heck's going on? But then the resiliency comes in. That energy that they've been able to bring throughout this season somehow then shows up. I give Bradley Carnell a ton of credit. And he's a humble dude too. when you listen to him in press conferences and when he's talking to the media, I'm just amazed at where this Union team is right now. I really think that they are going to be able to make a run at this MLS Cup at this point.
They've got a shot. They've exceeded all of my expectations. I think all of yours as well. Just how they played. And I think that goes a little bit to what you said about Carnell. Kind of like realizing what his guys do best. Yeah. And letting him do it. It feels like they're, they've always been solid defensively, but it feels like they're more aggressive than they were last year. And I think that's kind of, it feels like they're playing the same way they did, the last time they won the Supporter Shield and when they were close to winning an MLS Cup, losing to LAFC in the final. It seems like they, have a good shot based on what they're doing now. They've won their first round series against Chicago. They won the first game in penalty kicks. Game 2 is now in Chicago on November 1st. So if they win that series over, and now they go into a series of games where it's one and done
and they're
after this round.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. The one Achilles heel that I wish they would stop doing, and it happened. You alluded to it in the Chicago game. They were up 2-0, and then like
kind of like
within
a
matter of minutes, it was 2-2, and it
Yeah.
feels like it feels like in games, maybe it's just games when I watch them, but it feels like it happens a lot where they have a lead and they allow a team to come back, and then they either have to, win the game back, or it ends in a draw most of the time. Sometimes they just go all the way and they lose. But it feels like they don't step on the opponent's necks when they've got them down late in games. And it bites them in the ass. And I feel like I've seen it happen a couple times, and it happened in the Chicago game too. Fortunately, they were able to win on penalty kicks. I guess my main concern, losing Quinn Sullivan to the ACL tear, he's one of their probably better midfielders. So losing him is gonna sting. And I don't think it totally kneecaps their offensive upside, but it definitely hurts. They're going to miss him, I think.
Yeah, I think they're going to miss him, but I think what's also important, because like coming into this season, we were talking about at times what happens when depth pieces need to step up, and there was real concern with it, But when you look at this season, guys have stepped up in spot when they need.
Hopefully that can continue to happen.
Yeah, I just think it's a culture thing. It's interesting. If you go back, folks, in the podcast feed, our PST special this week, our good friend Josh Schuster from PhiladelphiaSoccerNow.com was on talking about this team and this possible run through the playoffs to possible championship. And Len, it's interesting. Josh used a phrase that I've been thinking about, and you alluded to it, the aggressiveness. He said he views it as patient aggressiveness. And he said, I know that kind of sounds, a little weird, but I think he was absolutely
right. If you watch this
team,
I think that's a good way to put it. Yeah,
that absolutely does. And as a result, it means that this team is really resilient in a lot of ways too. So I think it's been fun, and I think it's going to remain fun watching this team. Like, I am amazed at where the world of Philly sports is on any given week. I swear to God, 3 weeks ago, we were down in the dumps, man. Eagles are losing. Philly's getting knocked out of the postseason. We were shit on our shoes out of luck as Philadelphia sports fans. And now all of a sudden you've got the Eagles. We're seeing some cohesiveness with that offensive line for the first time really this season. You've got the Sixers at 4-0. The Union are doing what they're doing as well. And like, we're going to talk just a minute about the Flyers. It's been a fun season.
Yeah,
I know it's been fun watching them and Trevor Zegras. I don't know. Maybe we'll just get into that now. But do you have anything else for the Union, buddy, before we move to the Flyers?
No, I can't wait for that game on Sunday. Hopefully they just close it out. I mean, I know it's an away game. Just let's not make it suspenseful. And then I think they, I think it's Charlotte and NYCFC, whoever wins that series, that's who the Union would have next, should they advance. So,
what do you think
and those are both teams.
I think it's going to be Charlotte.
Well, I mean, NYCFC did go into Charlotte and win game 1, so they have game 2 on their home turf. If they can win that game, then, I mean, I think it'll be a little bit of a surprise, but I think it's definitely doable at this point.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Well, let us know what you're thinking about anything here in the world of Philly sports, folks. PhiladelphiaSportsTable@gmail.com. Love to read your email here on the show and respond to it, whether it's about the Union, the Sixers, the Eagles, the Phillies, what the offseason is going to look like for them, and this Philadelphia Flyers team, which we're going to get into now. Trevor Zegras, holy freaking crap. What he has meant to this Flyers team early on this season, we will certainly want to give our thoughts about him and just where this team is at right now. But he is answering that call, that offseason call. We were all thinking, okay, what is he actually really going to provide this team? Is he just going to be all, flash and glamour, a player that only wanted to be there for the highlight reels, things like that. But no,
fancy goals,
whether it's the power play or whether it's the fact that where what he has given this team just in terms of like when he's on the ice. I think it's like they're 5-1-1, at this point with him on the ice. It's really incredible what he has done. Yeah, they're 5-1-1 in games that in games that he has recorded a point. Okay. They're 5-1-1. And like, there is, my gosh, something to be said for that. There really is. What a free agent acquisition. And overall, he's helped make this team so much more fun to watch. Him and Michkov, it's been fun watching this team.
Yeah, it absolutely has. And you made the point about the perception of Zegras as a player coming in. Highlight reel, flash, maybe not a lot of substance to his game, maybe a little bit allergic to defense. But what we've seen so far, I mean, I feel like it was against Seattle. There was a play at which he was kind of behind the net a few games back, and he was about to get crushed into the boards by two guys. And it's like a quarterback with the rush on coming. He saw them coming. He was able to flick a pass right in front of the goal. Just a beautiful pass for a goal. Yeah. As two guys were putting him into the boards, and it's like that kind of play that someone who it would be, I guess we would consider soft. I don't think they would hang in there and make that play. So that showed me a little something. And then, he's chirping at guys. He's getting in their faces. Yep. He's participating. I mean, I think against the Penguins, they had a bit of a brawl there. He kind of got into that. So, I mean, he's buying in, and more than him buying in, and we saw it in that brawl there. They're all buying in. They're all kind of, when there's a brawl, they're all kind of jumping in. It's like that. And Tocchet made mention of it after the game, that pack mentality. So they're standing up for each other, which is especially in a physical sport like hockey, have to have it. It's huge. And they're doing it right now. So that's an encouraging thing to see. I mean, I have some things with this team that so far are really encouraging, and some stuff that's not so encouraging, maybe a little bit surprising. Going in both directions are really surprising. But yeah, that is a nice thing to see right off the bat.
Well, let's get into more of that then too, because I think for me, like, and this kind of goes to with one of the themes with the union talk that we were just discussing, is that Rick Tocchet, I think, has brought a new sense of leadership, of course, to this team and to these guys here. I think that Tocchet is just that fresh breath of air that a lot of these guys needed. Yeah. They needed to get away from that John Tortorella old style of coaching, of the old mentality. Rick Tocchet's just been a breath of fresh air, I think, for a lot of these guys. His communication style and how he is able to relate to and just have a relationship with his players. Yeah. It sounds so ridiculous, but that is a big reason, I think, why we're seeing success here with this Flyers team.
Yeah, and it's they're playing together and they're doing it in response to him in a positive way. You that could go in another direction with Tortorella. It didn't quite happen this way, but you would hope if they were going to play together, it would be like, all right, let's do this and stuff it up the old man's ass and show him. Right. But they're not. There's not that mentality with Tocchet. It seems like I mean, he'll get tough on a guy when he needs to. And he's done that with Michkov with some of his minutes so far. Yep. But there doesn't seem to be that, like, all right, it's us against the coach thing, where I feel like it was like that quite a bit with Tortorella. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you said there were some like other surprises, some other things, whether they're positive or negative. I mean, positive and negative. Yeah. Positive so far. I mean, I'm not surprised by the Zegras has been, scoring at the rate he's been scoring points or goals and assists so far. I'm very surprised that Sean Couturier is also co-leading this team in points right now. A guy that, man, for the past couple of years has looked like he was on his last legs, and it's like he's got this really long contract, and oh man, this is going to be an albatross. But he's been great so far. So that's a positive. Defensively, I mean, this is a defensive core where early in the season,
glad you mentioned it.
Rumors out there that oh man, we need to make a trade. This defense core is atrocious. We have to bring somebody in. It hasn't been bad.
The top two pairs have been very, very playing pretty good hockey.
It's been great so far as that. Yeah. And then oddly enough, the two I don't know if I want to call them disappointments, but just surprised that there's not more from them right now. Are the two biggest names on this team, and that's Travis Konechny and Matvey Michkov. I mean, if you look at their production so far, not really there, not really at the level where you would think or hope that it would be. I know there's been talk with Michkov in terms of maybe he had an off-season injury that he was recovering from, and his conditioning isn't where it needs to be yet, and that's kind of a process they're working through. But these guys are the two guys that you thought would be kind of dragging this team along in points, and right now it doesn't seem like it's happening.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I guess you could call it a disappointing surprise. I mean, I do expect them to both turn that around. If this was a season-long funk for either of them, I'd be shocked. But it's just like, wow, they did not get off to the starts that I had thought or hoped they would.
Even what was it, a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, where Rick Tocchet said he wanted Michkov to play through this slow start, be ready for more minutes, so I mean, that's encouraging too. I think another encouraging aspect of this team is Noah Cates and Tyson Forrester, Bobby Brink. My gosh, I mean,
those like depth guys have been coming through big.
They're like the engine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they've basically been the engine since last year. And I mean, I guess you got to give it to John Tortorella, I guess, for that. And
I more so with Forster than Brink. I think last year I felt like I saw it a little bit more out of him than Brink. And Cates, I mean, I guess I just always thought, okay, he's your fourth line center, and how much can you really expect out of that? But he's been doing really well. And then the goaltending is another pleasant surprise, particularly Vladar. I mean, I think he's been just such an improvement over what we saw last year, to the point where, I mean, Ursan, I mean, I don't know if it's 1 and 1A, but or 1A and 1B, but Vladar is not going to be 1B for too much longer if that's the situation it's in, because he has come in and I think he's done a really, really strong job so far.
Yeah, I'm watching games and I'm like, thank God for Dan Vladar. Like, thank God, because really, I thought Sam Ersson would have started probably 4 or 5 games at this point, maybe, and been like, and that's not the case, because I don't know what it is with some guys. Maybe they just need a change of scenery. Maybe a change of scenery, maybe a change in coaching, like we were talking about, going from Torts to Rick Tocchet. It's just changes of scenery means so much in the world of sports. And I don't mean to be so general with it, but really that in itself can make or break professional athletes at times. And Vladar is in a new situation and he's flourishing in it.
Yeah. And last year he lost the Calgary job to, I believe, Dustin Wolf, who was a Calder candidate. I mean, had just a phenomenal year, and he just needed to find a different situation where he could come in and potentially be the guy. And usually there's no better place for that than Philadelphia with regard to the goal situation. Exactly. So, I mean, he found the right spot, and he's making it happen so far. You talked about the split of games. He's played and started in 5 so far to 4 for Ursan. So, I mean, it looks like they might be going for some kind of 50-50 split there. But, I mean, it seems like, I mean, there's, if you thought Ursan was going to be the guy coming in this year, that's not been the case.
Yep. I'm happy about that. Yeah. Very happy about that. All right, buddy. You got anything else before I let you go here, before we get to some college football talk with our guest this week?
No, I just hopefully, it's easy to get sucked in with especially with the Sixers and the Flyers. A hot start or even a better start than you expected. In the Flyers case, will kind of do that. I mean, I would imagine at some point,
the rug
things may come down a little bit. I mean, in the Sixers case, maybe, teams are going to realize, all right, especially if Embiid's not in, we're going to be able to pound these guys inside, and they're not going to have an answer for it. And it'll be interesting to see how the Sixers counterpunch there, like what they're going to do to remedy that. But it's been fun early, and hopefully that fun continues.
All right, that's a great way to end this segment before we go to break and before we get to what we're throwing down on the table. My friend, great seeing you. Chug that
Good to see you
beer.
as always.
Yes. We're going to take a break, folks. And when we get back, we're going to get into some college football talk. Stick with us. All right, we are back with our good buddy, Joe DeLeone from A to Z Sports.com. Head on over to A to Z Sports.com. They have fantastic content, the world of football, just the sports world in general. We've got to dive into some college football talk. A lot of great storylines. Joe, man, thanks so much for joining us this week.
Yeah, of course. Excited to chop it up and catch up on what's happening in college football.
Absolutely, dude. Like, we're gonna get into Penn State. You can see I got my Penn State shirt on here. Okay, you know I'm an alum. We're gonna get into this team, as a lot of our listeners know. You know, we dive into some Penn State talk every now and again. But like, I really wanted to start the conversation off because I'm not sure we've seen this in quite some time on how the initial college football rankings were right when the season started back in September. Texas was number 1 in the nation. Penn State, you know, for several weeks, they were a top 5 team, even though they were, you know, really walking a fine line at times. I was at the Florida International game, and it was honestly the first half was kind of a, I don't want to say debacle, but it was surprising how Penn State was not able to move the ball offensively against Florida International. Anyway, we've seen some big time drops in rankings over the past few weeks of play for a lot of different teams. And again, talking about Texas, they started off number 1 in the nation, and now they're ranked in the 20s here at this point. And yes, sometimes upsets happen in college football, but you know, we've seen a lot of these ranked teams that just really weren't all that good at all, Joe. So I'm wondering, to get us started off here, were the initial rankings just sorely wrong overall when the season started here? What are your thoughts on this particular storyline?
Well, I don't think that they were sorely wrong because there a reason for the hype for a lot of these teams, like Clemson, for Penn State, for Texas. They have elite rosters. They've got very talented players, and it's going to reflect in the 2026 NFL draft and also future draft classes that a lot of those guys are going to get picked very early. I think that where now things are completely changing and completely shifting is that there's a lot easier of a time for teams that are technically below these programs to knock off those top teams. I think that there has been proven in college football this year that there is a lot more balance. So a good example is the Miami game against Louisville. You wouldn't really expect a team like Louisville to be able to go toe to toe with Miami, and they were able to play them pretty tightly. So I think that this year we're starting to get more and more proof that the transfer portal NIL has created a lot more balance and a lot more spread out talent across the sport that have created opportunities for these upsets to occur.
That's pretty interesting because I love the word balance that you use there, Joe, because when the NIL was established, if you remember, transfer portal as well, there were so many narratives that said this is going to destroy college football. College football is going to be destroyed in the future. And yes, we've seen some changes. I'm not going to say it's destroyed by any stretch of the imagination because of the balance you talked about. It's making college football, I think, actually more watchable in certain ways. Storylines to follow are great, especially this season. I don't think the transfer portal and the NIL has destroyed college football at all.
No, and I think that it's made it a lot more compelling. It's made it a lot more interesting to follow a lot of these games because you actually have more opportunities for teams that typically wouldn't be as competitive to win. And I think that we're in this spot now where even with the college football playoff and being expanded, there are still about 20 plus teams that are in the mix for the playoff. And there are some instances where we do talk about elimination games where teams drop a game and they've got 3 losses. There's going to be that every single week over the next coming weeks, but there are a large swath of teams that are now in the mix. And I think that it has really been improved by the fact that the transfer portal and NIL have enabled for more guys to go and play for different teams instead of getting buried on rosters.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Really is a great point. And really quick, folks, if you're watching on YouTube, we are going to forgive Joe for wearing a Knicks sweatshirt here and hoodie. Okay, we're gonna forget. I'm kidding around, Joe. My best friend's a Knicks fan. So anyway, I love busting chops every now and again. But anyway, let's continue getting into some other college football talk and some storylines too, because we're at that point in the season now where we're starting to talk about who may actually get that Heisman Trophy. I mean, Indiana's quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, is certainly a top contender here at this point. I mean, honestly, I don't really think he was a top contender on folks' radar when the season started initially. But Alabama's quarterback, Ty Simpson, also is in the mix as well. But man, Mendoza just, I mean, what a magical season for the Hoosiers he's having here. It's incredible what they've done. Who do you like right now in the Heisman race at this point, and why, Joe?
Yeah, I think Mendoza's been great, and he was somebody that I really liked in the preseason as a draft prospect, and I wasn't really sure what to expect if that he was going to be able to hit the ground running the way that he has. And a big contributing factor for that is that he's got a great receiver room with Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt that he can turn to. He's got a lot of really solid targets as well as a deep running back group that's alongside him. But the guys that I think that are in the best position to win because they've got more premier matchups down the line, they're going to be in a lot more national spotlights. I do really like Ty Simpson as being the eventual winner. I think that so far this season, he has been a guy who has had multiple spots, multiple instances where he has proved his importance for his team. The one throw that comes to mind that he had against Missouri was a 4th down play where he had to convert in order to help his team win. He did the same thing this past week against South Carolina. He had to make clutch throws in order to help his team avoid an upset. He, to me, has been the most aggressive and decisive player, the best playmaker of any of the quarterbacks so far this year. But I would also include in the mix, I think Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss has been a tremendous high impact guy for an Ole Miss team that I don't think they would have been getting this far if it wasn't for his role in that offense. And then lastly, I think that Gunnar Stockton for Georgia doesn't get enough love. I think that their defense right now is really struggling. They don't have a pass rush, and the only way that they're going to be able to win games is by outscoring teams. And the way that they're outscoring teams is Gunnar Stockton making big play after big play and making a lot of throws that most guys in the sport right now are not able to make.
Yeah, these are some fantastic football players, I think, from a college football perspective that definitely going to be keeping our eyes on during this Heisman Trophy race. But as we're moving along here, Joe, we wanted to get into some head coaching, possible prospects with storylines that have gone on. Brian Kelly, my gosh, out at LSU as the head coach. We know that, again, I mentioned earlier, my beloved Penn State Nittany Lions are going to be looking for their next head coach and who's going to be leading the next Nittany Lion era. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on both of these teams, their athletic departments, and who they might end up considering to lead both of these teams, both LSU and Penn State. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, LSU is going to be really interesting to track because it's already been a pretty messy situation with
the governors. Politicians are getting involved. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah, the governor involvement has made it really messy, and I'm hoping that it calms down a little bit because it's not going to really be very attractive to many of the big names that are looking into potentially taking that job. And I think that the first two names that are going to get brought up because they have high aspirations is going to be Dan Lanning at Oregon and Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. They're both elevating their programs. I think that getting Lane Kiffin's a little bit more accomplishable because there's some more limitations at Ole Miss, but Dan Lanning's one of those guys that I think you got to push him until he actually truly says no. You never know what you could get out of him if you really, really try to pursue him and convince him to take the LSU job, but he's got everything that he wants at Oregon. Outside of that, though, John Summerall at Tulane has been a consistent winner. And I think that it wouldn't really hurt them to look at the G5 level as well as Alex Golesh at USF. There are a lot of great coaches at the G5 level, and it might be a little bit more of a safer option, one that is going to be a lot less expensive if they decided to go that route. And then for the Penn State side of things, I think both those guys apply. Summerall and Golesh apply for Penn State. It might be best for them to look in that direction of going G5 and somebody who's been a program builder and an elevator. And then I think that the thought of Eli Drinkwitz from Missouri would be really interesting because I feel like Drinkwitz has turned Missouri into a consistent winner, but you place him into a situation at Penn State where it's not that there's really recruiting limitations at Missouri, but I think that there'd be a lot more fuel to improving the program and him reaching a different ceiling if he was in the Big Ten, if he was at Penn State and he was able to recruit in that region.
Yeah, it's interesting, following Penn State as closely as I do, Joe, that you had James Franklin, who quite frankly, from a recruiting standpoint, was amazing. He was, I mean, was he on the level of Ohio State necessarily? Not really. And I mean, that's at the end of the day, that was really the issue, that he just couldn't beat the Ohio States. It was difficult to beat top 10 teams in key situations year after year. But I do wonder who that coach is going to be that's going to be able to elevate what James Franklin had done for well over a decade. And I'm not necessarily sure that there is a concise answer to that, because there is a certain expectation level for us fans that the program and the recruiting process needs to stay very consistent. But how do you elevate it, and with what head coach is going to really make all that difference in the world? That's where I'm at, and I just don't know if there's a concise answer.
Yeah, and I think that trying to find this next head coach for Penn State is going to be really complicated, because originally Penn State was the biggest job open, and then at the time it was, maybe Florida comes open as well. But now you have all these other big jobs, and it also begs the question, do we see other openings happen as well, because all these other big brands panic because of the performance of their teams? And I'm talking about Auburn with Hugh Freeze, Oklahoma with Brent Venables. Do either of those teams feel incentivized to get rid of their coaches because they feel like everybody else is trying to upgrade, and they don't want to go into next season, a step behind, and then go into next season with not having the right man to turn the program around?
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, we're going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we got a lot more college football talk. But before that, again, Joe DeLeone is here from A2ZSports.com. Joe, let everybody know where they can find you on the socials out there if they want to connect with you.
Yeah, you can find me on X at Joe DeLeone, and then go check out the Ruffino Joe Show, which is my college football podcast. You can find it on YouTube, as well as any of your audio podcast platforms.
All right. We're going to take that break now. We'll be back in just a bit with more college football talk. All right, we are back. And again, we are with Joe DeLeone from A2ZSports.com, the Ruffino and Joe Show podcast. Subscribe on Apple Music. That's where I subscribe. Whatever podcast platforms that you're listening to us on, and here on YouTube as well. All right, let's continue with getting into this college football season here, Joe, because you've got three teams in Texas A&M, Georgia Tech, and BYU. Three teams outside of the top two teams that are still undefeated. So I'm wondering, which of those three teams do you think could really take on Ohio State or even Indiana, the number one and the number two teams in the nation, and really give them a run for their money? I mean, essentially, do you think any of those three teams are strong enough to possibly get to, number one, number two, or number three in the nation over the next couple weeks here? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I personally, I think that BYU is a little bit overrated. I think that they have benefited from a lot of things going their way in a lot of these games that they've had. I think that having a true freshman quarterback, while Bachmeier has been tremendous, it's going to end up catching up to them at a certain point. Georgia Tech is, I think, the best position to go undefeated because they have the best schedule, but they're not the best team to legitimately challenge any of the top teams in college football. Texas A&M, it fits that definition because they have so much explosiveness at wide receiver. Concepcion and Craver have been really, really impactful players, as well as Marcel Reed, who has been in the Heisman conversation. He's kind of on the back end of the mix, but he has such a dynamic playmaking ability for the way that he plays quarterback. And their run game has been awesome as well. Even without Le'Veon Moss, Ruben Owens has stepped up and been a really, really just hard-nosed runner that has made big play after big play. Defensively, I do have some concerns with their run defense because in instances where they've played against teams that have explosive rushing attacks, whether it be Arkansas, whether it be Notre Dame, they've given up a lot of big plays. But outside of that, their defense has a lot of athletes all over it, a lot of guys that are going to get looks very highly in the upcoming draft. Yeah. I'm a very big Cassius Howell fan. I think that Cassius Howell is a very unique and disruptive pass rusher that's just got really good hand usage. He's got great burst. I think that this whole roster is just so well put together. And Mike Elko has this team playing with intensity. They're not staring down adversity and freaking out. They're just doing everything right. And they legitimately have that best shot to maybe even go to a national championship this year.
Wow. Amazing if they would be able to get to that national championship game. And dude, that's why college football is great now. I love the expanded playoff. I really do. I am such a fan of it. I know we're not going to get into any college football playoff talk here, but I did want to get into a subject with you. And quite frankly, we have not dove into this at all on this podcast platform during this college football season, but it's the Bill Belichick experiment in North Carolina that has been a complete and total utter embarrassment. He was supposed to take North Carolina to the next level in college football to make them an elite team, but it has been the complete opposite. As we know, I mean, the team looks worse than it has over the past 6 years or so. And he took part in actually building where this team is at this year, basically from scratch. I think he added 70 new players, something like that, this year in the in the off season. So I guess, what are your thoughts on why this has turned into such a train wreck, and what should North Carolina actually do about it at this point?
Well, I think that they shouldn't just immediately pull the plug, because there's been a pretty significant commitment to try and make this work. It seems like, from a lot of the reporting that's been done on this, Michael Lombardi, who's the general manager, has been one of the biggest issues for this. A lot of people have questioned if he's qualified to even have this job. He's getting paid an exorbitant amount of money that is way more than the typical general manager, and he's got no experience of serving in that role. So I think that a lot of the problems that they have really funnel towards that. I think that if Belichick wants to improve and take this thing into a better direction, he needs to fire Lombardi. He needs to hire an actual college general manager that's at a program that is been built up, that a guy that's been around, that has had sustained success. I think that there is redeemability here, and I think that North Carolina could end up finishing the year strong, but completely pulling the plug on everything, if Belichick has a desire to continue doing this, I think it would be a little bit hasty, and I think it would be a little bit rushed, because there still is a path for North Carolina to become competitive and to be a sustained top program in the ACC if everything can go right.
Yeah. I really don't think this has much to do with his girlfriend, to be honest with you, on the sidelines. I mean, I know that's like the sexy aspect of this, quote, sexy aspect of the story, but you're right. I don't think it's that at all. A lot of missteps along the way, specifically with Lombardi, like you were talking about. So, to close this out here, Joe, I mean, we know that Indiana, as we talked about before, they're the big Cinderella surprise story, really, of this season. They're number 2 in the nation right now, as of us recording this here. And I'm wondering, what are some of the other, quote, low-key teams that have really surprised you this season in terms of how productive and how good that they've been on the field? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I had high expectations for Indiana this year, so they've been a little bit less surprising for me, just because they brought back so much experience. They brought back so many of their top guys from last season, and then the upgrade that they had with Mendoza at quarterback. But one team that I think has been the most surprising and is in really good positioning to get to the playoff, maybe even win a game, it's Ole Miss. And the thing for me this offseason, I didn't really understand what to expect. And I think that there's still limitations with what I wasn't super high on going into the year, which is what they brought to the table defensively. The run defense is quite porous. They've given up a lot of big plays on the ground, but the wild card has been Trinidad Chambliss when he stepped in for Austin Simmons, and he hasn't looked back. He is a point guard style playmaker that fits perfectly with what Lane Kiffin has wanted on offense. And I think that this team is alive in any football game when he's back there, taking snaps at quarterback. They are a really, really exciting, fun team to watch, because at any point that the game might start to get away from him, like it did against Oklahoma, Chambliss is capable of igniting that offense and producing some really big plays. So for me, Ole Miss definitely has been the most surprising team, and they continue to prove me wrong with the way that they've been showing up every single week.
Yeah. It's a fun college football season, folks. We're going to continue monitoring, talking about at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show what's going to be happening in this college football season. And again, he is Joe DeLeone from A to Z Sports.com, the Ruffino and Joe Show. Great podcast. And Joe, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. It's always great talking to you. I'd love to have you on at some point down the road, getting more college football talk, maybe some draft prospects talk. Come back and join us down the road, my friend.
Of course. Thanks for having me.